Okay, so tonight, live from Metro Hardwood is one of our own. And you've seen him on Facebook. He seems to have a lot of time on his hands when he's not golfing. And from the look over there, he's got a whole lot of time on his hands. So we'll get Ben up here and he's going to show us how to do gnomes and other things.
Thank you. Good evening. Isn't it great to savor the last great hot day of the year? Enjoy. It's going to get cool. It's going to be pleasant. Yeah, okay. Well, I am billed as showing you how to do Christmas trees and how to do gnomes. I doubt that there's anybody in here who hasn't turned a Christmas tree at one time or another or gone for a gnome or whatever. There's a lot of different ways to do it. The reason that I think right now it's a good time to be doing it is it's practice. It's practice for making finials, it's practice for doing all of those detail works and spindles that sometimes we get out of practice. Quite frankly, I started doing the Christmas trees about 2 weeks ago. Again, this year. I hadn't turned any since last season. And it was just a little clumsy getting started. You're remembering what happens when and where and what tools work best. And a lot of times it's kind of experimentation. But the one thing that I want to share with you is a lot of the things that we do are exactly the same no matter what project we're working on. For example, you start handling some of these Christmas trees and it starts feeling like you're playing chess. And if you've ever had dreams of turning your own chess set, here's your practice medium right here. Practice some trees and stuff and get a feel for the coves and the beads and stuff that are going to look good, and practice doing it over and over, and then you're going to be able to develop your own unique chess set. Or the gnomes. Gnomes are simply short Christmas trees. There's no difference. Once you get one of them going, there you go. You've got it all. But you're practicing over and over and over the same motor skills, the same eye-hand coordination types of things. And I tell people, and I shouldn't really tell you this, I shouldn't because you'll never see them the same again. But Christmas trees, when you start designing them, and I don't measure or anything, I just do the design on the fly. So you'll have to live with that. But Christmas trees are simply stacks of bells or stacks of little space capsules. Okay, they're just shapes, but you begin to pick up an appreciation for this looks good or this doesn't look good, and get a better feel for the proportion. So what are we going to do? We're going to turn to gnome, and whenever you start doing a forest, the gnomes are going to show up. You've got to do gnomes. But basically it's a Christmas tree shaped a little differently. Put a hole right in there for the nose that I've already turned and have a little peg fits right in there. Glue it in and then finish him up. A lot of people like to do their gnomes in 2 or 3 pieces. No problem. They like to have a little different color top up here. They like to have the cap out of different wood, and then they turn the body separate, and then you work on assembling all of that. I tried it, I didn't like it. So I do my gnomes as all one piece and work on it from there. Let's go ahead and see what kind of trouble we can get into here, shall we? What we start with is a good block of wood, and remember, garbage in, garbage out. So if you'll start with a good quality wood, check it for cracks. You don't want it blowing apart on you, on your practice pieces in particular, and get it squared up as much as possible. It doesn't have to be exactly square, but you do want both of the ends trimmed up pretty square. It helps with the project. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this block that this is a gnome block, and we're going to put it into the chuck all the way, unlike what we do when we're turning the little spigot on it. Put it all the way in there, let the corners come through each of the gaps, and tighten it down. Bring the tailstock up, and it's amazing if you've got square wood, the tailstock hits right dead center or near dead center every time. When you tighten up the tailstock, don't put too much pressure on it. It's a placeholder. All you want is a little bit of pressure in there to start making that indentation. Too much pressure, you start to split the wood, or if you've got a long spindle, you'll start to buckle, and it will pick up a vibration simply because of the pressure that you've got on the tailstock. So easy does it, and we'll go from there. I've already started one, so I'm not going to throw so many chips around here that we have to sweep up later, okay? But just imagine this square one right here. Becomes this one. Come on. Work hand. That's it. Like so. Get it right into the same indentations that I had before. It fits nice and tight. Tighten that little puppy down. Don't trust all the little gears. Give it a spin or two, and then it's ready. Face mask. I'm wearing my mesh mask tonight. You like this style? This is a really good summertime mask. You know, it's not as hot as one of those enclosed. I doubt that it's quite as safe, but boy, is it more comfortable. All right, let's see what we can do. Let's bring up here. Mel, can you see over there?
Yes.
All right. First of all, what we've got is a basic gnome shape or a basic Christmas tree shape. And then I've got these extra little corners that haven't been turned down. This is from the roughing gouge. Okay, so this is all done with the big roughing gouge like this, just real quickly knocking that down. And now, Mel's favorite spindle, excuse me. And be real careful, you don't want to put one of these into your chuck. You understand that, right? Okay, now we're set. The entire thing is ready to go. We're going to do the shaping with this. I'm going to come in right down here, and now we got the bottom of the gnome. We'll come up here, pick a spot, any spot. There's his hat. Face is down below. Take this off a little bit right in here. And if you start feeling that vibration, probably you're a little bit loose over here. Just check, make sure it hasn't gotten too loose. Better already. Just like that. Okay, now let's look at what we've got. We got the gnome hat, we got the gnome face right down here, and what we're going to do is undercut this hat. I've got any kind of a cutoff tool is going to work. You're going to be very careful with this because you're coming in from the side and it's going in at about 45 degrees in toward the middle. You're not going very far. You're going maybe a quarter inch at the very most. But what we're doing is creating a place for the beard to go up under and glue real easily without being a mess. So you're making life easy for yourself right now. Okay, so come in with your parting tool. Just like that, and we're done. Now, we've got an undercut right here. We've got the body right here. Let's go for, let's stay with this. Out here, we're going to put a ball on the top of his hat. So somewhere right about there, we're going to have that ball. All right? Let's come in here and let's start to define that. And we'll just roll, and this is good practice. Nice practice, bring that ball right down in there. Not trying to do the whole thing and just a half of it. Get a nice clean joint right there. And then up at the top, we'll go the other direction. Right over the top and just keep rolling that tool. This is spindle gouge. Like so. And we'll come back and get the rest there in just a minute. All right, now, we also want some sort of a rim on his hat, a brim of some sort. So let's just do a cut right here. Brim of his cap can be right there. We'll round that edge over just a tiny bit, take the top of it off, roll that spindle gouge down in there, get a nice clean mark. And that's one of the things that you're practicing on this. You want really good, clean, sharp cuts. You don't want a messy cut in there that looks like it's been done up with 80 grit sandpaper. You want something that's been cut in nice and clean. And then now we've got this whole thing to design. What do we want to do? How do we want to do it? It doesn't really matter. If you want a thinner hat, you can come back with your big gouge, rougher gouge. Let's just take this down a little bit more. Yeah. Now let's say we want to something like that. Anybody have any suggestions? Well, come in here. Let's bring this down here a little bit. That's better. Little tool marks, you can work on them with the gouge, you can work on them, most any tool that you want to practice with and play with and go from there. Now somebody said, well, would you talk to us about how you start putting in the bands on the hats and all? This is where you start doing that. You say, all right, here's what I've got. I've got a little face. It's going to have to be taken down a lot smoother. So I'm going to come back and clean that up. We've got the brim here. We've got the original, and this is starting to clean up. But we're going to put, a band or something on the hat. Let's go with several ways to do this. Have one of those, what do you call that? Detail. Yeah, detail thing with, comes with the carbide kit, so all that you get. Okay, so we'll come in here. 1, 2. Now at that point we've got that band in the hat. If you have a any kind of a texture tool or something like that, that's a great time. You can use that, break that out of the box and use your texture tool, go back and forth. If you want to use any kind of an other carving device, knife, blade, something like that, great, whatever. And then the ones that you see over there, what we've done is after this has been finished down, you come back with embellishing wax for the color and rub that wax into any kind of indentations that you put into this band, and then the final wax finish goes over the top of that. And it's pretty stable stuff. I would imagine that a lot of you have used that already. But then just to define that band a little bit, little wire, couple of handles. Don't ever start wrapping the wire around your fingers or anything like that. You can lose a finger real quickly that way. But down here and just into it.
They used a guitar string one time. It made a real good saw.
Is what?
It made a real good saw.
Oh, the guitar? Yeah. I always worry when I burn one of the ends right up here near in the small areas, you know. You have to work on them because the spindle in close is not turning nearly as fast as out toward the outside. And so it takes more work to get a good clean burn mark in there. But, okay, now, if you want, what you're going to do, and this is where the time comes in, you've got your roughed out gnome. We can come back here. Okay, let's take just a real nice fine cut along here. And it's amazing how much difference there is between a cut that you make with a good sharp gouge and a scraping or a peeling cut that you make with a different kind of a tool or with a carbide tool. Once you finish a lot of these up, they're going to require very little sanding. It takes some time, it takes some patience, it takes a lot of practice, but when you get there, you're going to be a happy camper. Now we're going to take the tailstock off because we're going to come in and clean up this ball on the end. We're going to bring the this is where a light touch is preferred. But this is kind of a rolling cut. I don't know if you can see that or not. Now are you getting that? I'm in the way. Okay. I'm just rolling down. And this is where a really sharp spindle gouge really pays off. Coming on in, and off. And you want to make sure that you get past the little indentation that the tailstock is made on there. You want a good clean cut. Now, to cut to the chase, I can do the same thing, work it on down, and then we come on with our favorite. I start on the gnomes and the trees at 220. Anything coarser than that, and you're going to put scratches in that are way beyond. So my advice is work on starting at 220 max and going from there. Just a real quick touch. Now, somebody says, well, that's nice. You've got that ball up there on top, but I really would like to have something a different color. Well, no problem. First, you could chop it off and put on something else. Yeah. Or you could dip it into some sort of dye right up to the line and then let it dry upside down. Or if you want to paint it and have a different color paint, that would be fine.
If you dye it, will it have a tendency to bleed?
Dye it right there. If you're a marker fan, you know, you could get your markers and mark it. Problem with markers is they're not quite usually as long lasting. They have a tendency to fade out on you after a while. Now, I'm rushing this one just a little bit, but in talking about finishing these off, you want a real sharp line anywhere that you come in there. So you're going to work on that and make sure it's where you want it. Same thing in here. You've burned these in, but what I like to do is come in and use a little bit of sandpaper right on those edges to knock off any burrs or sharp spots that are in there. You'll be a lot happier if you do. Don't catch your fingernails on the jaws of the chuck. That's not a good thing to do. And then I will come back in oftentimes with the glasses because you can see a little bit better than through the mask, and then just a light kiss right in those areas to make sure that they're clean, sharp, crisp. It really does make a difference in the look of the entire thing. I've been using Shine Juice as my sealer on these. On all of the ones that are over here, they're done with Shine Juice and wax, basically. You guys have such a nice clean lathe. You should see mine. No, you shouldn't see mine.
We've seen yours.
What?
We've seen yours.
Oh, yes, you have, haven't you? Okay, but basically, we'll move this back out of the way. There you go. You're coming in with a little bit of this and slowly just get the sealer on there. If you want to use regular sealer, that's fine. This is just, you know about Shine Juice. It's 1/3 shellac, the bullseye stuff. It's 1/3 boiled linseed oil right out of the can. Don't try to make your own. And 1/3 of denatured alcohol. Can you remember that? 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. And you mix it up in a little cup. A little bit goes a long way. But then what you're doing basically is rubbing shellac and linseed oil into your project. And then when you hit it, what happens is the heat begins to set the oil quickly. So you're not waiting a whole day for that oil to set up. And the shellac dries up and the alcohol evaporates. And if you've started with about a 220 or to 320 or even 600 grit sanding of the project, you can get a pretty high gloss on that thing in a hurry. You don't have to overdo it. And we're not trying to do a final coat right here. What I'm going to do is just use that as a sealer so that I can come back and sand on that some more. Okay, any questions on this so far? You got it, right? We're not talking real heavy-duty rocket science here or anything like that. Now, once you get this, you got this little rascal like this. Somewhere along the line, all you need to do is drill a hole for the nose. And then, of course, you have to turn the nose if you want. You could get a little rubber ball or something like that. Now, a warning, these are not kid-friendly, okay? These are not toys that you're going to give the little kid that's going to chew on them, because there's always a chance a small part is going to come out. But you turn the stem of this down so that it fits. and you have the makings of the gnome. Now you have the undercut hat here. And the beard material. Who won the beard material tonight? Anybody take the beard? Okay. What you're going to do, the beard material has a direction to it. When you get it, you can get this at Joann's or other places in different weird colors or whatever. Or you can order it online.
What's it called at Joann's?
Called Gnome beard material.
Really?
No, yeah. It's what is it? Fun fur. I think they call it fun fur. Okay, and what you're going to do is cut a little V. Can you see that? Okay. And then you're going to glue up under the hat with craft glue. This is silicone craft glue. This is good stuff. Available at Hobby Lobby, Michael's, online, whatever you want. Comes in lots of different sizes. You do not have to buy the big economy.
Hold it over the chuck there. Yeah. Closer to the chuck.
Comes under several different names, but it's all silicone craft glue. And get the good stuff. It's not very expensive. And so what you're going to do is put a line of that under the hat where the beard is going to attach, and then smear a little bit down in here. And it's also what you're going to use to glue the nose in. And then that little notch goes right there, wraps around his nose. And then, I'm sure all of you have some of these tweezers laying around your shop that you haven't had any use for. These are the things that you're going to push this material up under the little hat with, so you're not touching very much of it. And that goes all the way around, and basically you have a gnome. You with me? Now, the most exciting part of this whole thing, yeah, right. Come back over here. More death-defying axe on the lathe. This is a high-tech cutoff tool. I laughed when I first saw it, and the more I use it, the more I like it. It's not too shabby. Whoop! We're going to come over here, and again, real carefully, so that you're not endangering yourself with your chuck. Look at where you're going, real carefully there. All right, and we're just going to come down in here. That's pretty good. If you're ready to have him off of there, you go ahead and cut him off. If you want to save that and say, okay, I'm going to come back, I may need to do some finishing on him later on, just leave him. Okay, you guys ever put down a tool and not know where you put it? Yeah. That's what?
Every other one.
Yeah. Okay, so what you could do if you're making production of this, you get to a certain point, you say, okay, that's where I'm going to stop on this, and you start putting these things in your box, and you're going to come back to them, okay? But you've gone to that far, and you're ready to go. But gnomes have to have forests, right? It's the same thing. There we go. I'm just going to go a bigger one. Let's go better wood. Let's go some walnut. Okay, now with the tree, it's a little bit different approach. Basically, I've started making a very, very tall gnome. If you want a tall gnome, that's okay. Little body down here and a very, very, very tall hat. That's great. Now I'm going to make a tree. So, I'll come over here, and I'm going to say that the top of the tree is going to take up about this much. That's going to be the decorative part at the top, roughly speaking. Somewhere in there. Can you see that? And then I will have, 2 or 3 or 4 bells or space capsules or something, and then the little base it's going to set on. That's my plan. That's the only plan I've got. There we go, about the same size. Does that make sense? Okay. By the way, somebody says, well, I don't like the little ball that you put on the gnomes. You can always just turn it off and put a marble or something there too if you want. If you mess up the ball, don't worry about it. Hack it off and there you go. And it's the same glue, silicone. All right, let's see how we can do here. About there. Tree is going to work down this direction. And roll in with a nice cut, clean on this one. By the way, the lathe is running at 16, 18. That's a nice year, I guess. I don't know why it's set there, but it works for me. Generally, when I'm going to cut something off, I'll slow it down, or when I'm sanding, I'll slow it down. But when you're working on a finial like this, speed is generally your friend because you get a cleaner cut, and the little finials and such that you're doing are turning much slower than a bowl or something would at that same size. That would be outlandish if you were doing a big bowl, but for the small stuff, you're doing fine. Kind of a sweeping. Okay, you like that? Okay. So we say, okay, we like that. Let's do another one. Now my object eventually is to get a nice clean cut down into here. And as clean as I can possibly get on these end grain cuts coming down like that, because those are the ones that are going to be really, really difficult to sand. If you've got little sanding marks and stuff in those, that's tough to get out. So this in particular is a cut that you really want to have good and sharp and clean. Okay, let's try another one. Bring it down. You see what I mean? This is great practice. And I'm not measuring it. Somebody explained to me once that if you're doing a whole set like this and you're trying to make them exactly the same, one of them off shows off a whole lot worse than all of them being different. I don't know. Does that work for you? That's my story. I'm sticking to it. Trying to do pretty close to the same mark coming in. Now I guess the trick is knowing when to make an end. We're getting down to about the last one that I would be able to turn here. This one's a little shorter, I think. Let's make him a little longer. We're pretty close on diameter of these all coming down. And then for the final, we'll come in like so. Come in like so. You can do anything you want here. Now, when you start making balls, one of the things that you want to do, I think, and I'm doing this not because I know any better, but if you put a completely round ball into a finial or the icicles on decorations or something like that, it looks a little weird. What you're doing is probably making a ball, but it's going to look like the ball is kind of in a cup or something. So it's a little more of a flattened ball, and it seems to look a little better. At least it does to me. I don't know. We can talk about that if you like. And again, you're getting close to your jaws over here, so you got to be careful. Pay attention to your knuckles. Yeah, we're doing all right. Now let's go back up to the other end. Now why do you work a gnome from this end to that end and a tree from this end to that end? It's the same thing that when you're turning a bowl. You leave the substance of the bowl in the middle, work on the outside rim, and then work it down. It's a little more stable. If you do all of this work first, you've got less material to hold stable out here. At least that's my story, and I'm sticking to it for now. All right, let's come back up here. Basically, it's the same thing. You're wanting nice, clean, sharp cuts, especially on the end grain as they come in. What I found is just rolling this over, and if you'll look at the gouge, you'll see that I've taken the hard edge off of the back side. There are two grinds on this, the cutting grind, and then one that takes the hard edge off that lets the gouge maneuver a little bit more as you're playing in there. Okay, now before I get crazy and cut that off, are there any other things that I want to do? Well, there are a lot of things that we could do to this to make it kind of different, personal, whatever you'd like. For example, I could come back to my detail tool and I can put some lines in here along the edge of the tree. I could put some little detail lines up in here. I definitely would go back and sharpen up all of the cuts just to make sure there's no garbage in there. Make sure that I've got a good clean area to work with. If you want to, you'll notice all of mine, I try to just do a burn line down at the bottom. So you come in here with the detailer. Couple of quick little detail lines. You can hear how deep they are if you're listening. I don't hear much, but I can hear that. Or you can see, and you're going to come out just about the same. And then once again, with your wire, and that's deep enough that even after you sand it, that burn line is going to be in there, and it's going to be fine. Tell you what, we could let's go with this. Let's make this just a little different. We're going to come in up here. We're going to say, okay, we're going to cut down into there. I'm going to cut down into there. And real carefully, I'm going to do a rolling cut right here. And then I'll bring it down to there. Hear that out there in the middle by itself? It's starting to chatter a little bit. Now you've gone from a fairly simple little tree to one starting to show a little more personalized detail. Any questions? You doing okay so far? Okay. Now the same deal over here, cutoff tool. I'm sure you've got your favorite. You can make a nice, I like the real thin ones. I've got several. Just be careful. That's going to go in like that. If you like, come back and just sharpen the edge a tiny bit. Come back with the detail tool. I don't know if on the video you can see that effect that you get, but when you go in there and clean that little line up, it makes a world of difference. Not to say that my spindle gouge work wasn't perfect to start with, however, it hides a multitude of sins. And then finally, let's cut him off.
Do you finish the top of it before you cut it off?
It's what?
Do you finish the end of it, the top end, before you cut it off?
Yeah. Yeah. What I've done is just cut it down for my mark so that when I do the finishing on this, in just a minute, some sanding and stuff, I won't have to go back and resand right around a rough cut mark or anything. That's going to be already done. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, over here on the top of this little finial, if we wanted to do a tiny little ball, we could do it. If you want to do a little inset cup so that you can put a marble in it, you could do that. You can turn some different shapes, like angels and things like that, that if you flatten them out, then you've got a nice little angel with wings and stuff like that. lots of things that you can play with. I'm not going to get into that tonight, but you can see over and over and over we're using exactly the same skills. It's learning that the tool, learning just the rhythm and what you can get away with and what you can't. Kind of like skiing, you know, you catch that wrong direction and boom. Yeah. So we'll come in here. And if you wanted the little ball, no reason you can't have it. You can see, I don't want that. So you just take it away. Come in this direction, and in this direction. If your lathe is lined up nicely, then this should be a nice, easy parting of the ways. If it's off-center just a little bit, you're going to get just a little bit of a wiggle, and the top of your tree is going to start pointing in a different direction. Basically what that means is that the leg needs to be shored up just a little bit. Again, I said I was going to sell some stuff tonight. This foam abrasive that he's got out there on the counter, good stuff. Got it in 2 or 3 different grits, but it works extremely well on these little hard to get in places along here. And as you can see, if you get a clean cut the first time, it doesn't take a whole lot of sanding. And what you're watching for are those little white lines that just kind of stay there. Those are the ones that you're going to want to get to go away. Those are your tool marks in there. And then on the end cuts, anybody who tells you that they don't sand is probably lying to you. Everybody sands, you've got to. You're going to have some tool marks, you're going to have some grain that shows up as really difficult in the wood. The only way to get it out is to really give it some loving attention with the sanding. But sanding takes an awful lot of time. The better cut that you can get, the cleaner cut you can get, the more time you're going to have to do other stuff. A project that with sanding is going to take you an hour to 2 hours to do. If you get a good clean cut, you're going to save yourself a half hour or more to go ahead and do something else. So that's part of why the practice is so important. Coming over once again, shine juice. High-tech protective devices for your lathe. Now the recipe again, 1/3 shellac. You could make your own if you want, it's easy to get it out of the can. 1/3 boiled linseed oil and 1/3 denatured alcohol. It has a shelf life, it does expire, you don't want to mix up too much of it. And after a month or so, probably call it gone and mix up a new batch. It's not expensive. You don't have to mix up a whole bunch at once. But then as we start to add a little heat and polish, even without a whole lot of sanding. Can you see that from the top? Can you see that gloss start to show up? That's not all just because it's wet. It really is picking up shine. Now one of the things that I have noticed that when I do this and I'm just doing it with my glasses on, I start to get all these little spots of shellac on my glasses. That's really irritating. I hate to clean that off. So wear the safety glasses or the shield or something if you're going to be doing very much of this. Okay, that's one quick coat. Let's check and see where we are so far. Now what I would be doing with that is letting it sit, or I'd set it aside if I wanted to work on some other in process and didn't want to change the lathe around or anything. But come back, hit it with some abrasive, hit it with the abrasive paste, and then hit it with wax. And it makes a real nice finish on it.
So you put the shine juice on before you put
I'm using the shine juice first, and it's acting as a sealer and begins to give me a little bit of a surface to work with, but then I come back and take part of it off, sand it, or use the abrasive paste. And you could come back with some more shine juice on top of that, but I haven't found that it's really that necessary for this project. Now, for a different project, who knows? Again, with the gnomes, these are little popular things. What I started doing is trimming the trees, and I have a fairly extensive forest at my house, and people would come over or they would see them online and they want them. And I would talk about my forest, my private forest, and they want their own private forest. That's nice. These things are expensive because the wood is expensive anymore. If you check the price per stick of the stuff that I'm using, it's what, 20 bucks for a 24-inch. One of them is $30 for a 24-inch 2x2. Well, you've got a pretty substantial investment in just wood in that stuff. And he said, well, how much is that? I said, well, let's think about it this way. You want a forest, so 3 trees, your pick, tall one, medium, short one, $100. I said, great. And I've sold I don't know how many of them at $100 for 3 trees. They walk out the door happy as anything. And by the way, they'd like to have a gnome or 2 to go with them. And these are $25 each. And they're happy to get them. I sold them faster than I could make them last year. So, you know, for what it's worth, don't undervalue your work either. If you're making this stuff, people love it. They love to have a piece of what you're doing, and it makes you feel good. And if you're giving it to somebody, they feel good. But if they know you usually get $100 for 3 trees, and you're going to drop 3 of them in a bag and say Merry Christmas, that's good. That's a good deal. Is there anything I can tell you or help you with, or yes, sir?
You might tell them the little trick about cutting
Yeah, I was gonna
the
ask,
material.
what direction does it,
You haven't seen
About which? I'm sorry.
to cut the
Oh yeah.
the direction?
Well,
You don't just-
okay, it's like cutting. It's like cutting hair. Here's the old gray man hair, and notice that it lays down. It's just like petting your dog. What you do is you fold this back until you can get kind of a clear seam on there, and then your scissors work just right in kind of underneath it and real patiently snip that off. What you're going to find is it's messy because when you cut it, it starts coming off. And so comb through it a little bit like that before you start working too much with it, and throw that stuff away, or before you know it, you're going to have it all over. It's going to look like you just shaved the dog. Okay? But with that, and then once you get the little strip, you're going to find the halfway spot. You're going to make that little notch in there for the nose, and then that goes up under there. Some of them I run it part way around, and then the old guys this year I'm taking it full round. And I found it's just as easy or easier to do the full wrap as it is to do a partial beard. Some people do just a little goatee on them and things like that. That's cute. Whatever you want to do. But people love them. put them on the dashboard of their cars and driving around, they're happy they got a gnome to go with them. I don't know.
Got their little buddy.
Any other questions? Again, finish them up any way you want. If you're a poly fan, that's fine. But I found that the shine juice, you can see the one that we're passing around is ready to finish up and wax and get out the door. And they look good and it lasts. Gentlemen, thank you.